All right. Did I wait long enough for music to quit playing that time?
You did.
Cool. 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 All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome tonight. Some of y'all, Brian especially. Yes, it's a little different because we got three screens tonight. So Steve is not down there or up there, and I'm not down there. So, but we'll work through it. So hello. Gonna kind of skip through the greetings to everybody. Make sure we don't have any questions or maybe some new folks. And if you're not familiar, down below that is Greg. Greg is from STL Woodworking. First time I met him was over at WBC back a few months ago in Atlanta, and met him and Cody. And so I'll just let him introduce himself because I'm pretty sure y'all know me as Steve. But kind of let him give you a little backstory uh, of how he got started or what he does and all that good stuff. He's also got some links we're going to be dropping in the description for you guys as well. So, all right, Greg, let them know who you are in case they don't. I think most of them may.
Hey everybody. Greg, STL Woodworking. I've got a small woodworking, CNC, a little bit of everything epoxy. I do a lot of epoxy stuff here in Northeast Georgia. Met this gentleman here at Workbench Con a few months ago. I talked to him a little bit and kind of looked at the channel back and forth before then, and we got to chat a good bit at Workbench Con. So, yeah, I do a lot of epoxy stuff. Pretty integrated with Jenny Bits and Cody over at Cadence Manufacturing, and a few other people. We're going to drop some links here in a little bit, some of my affiliate partners. But yeah, I'm here for questions. So if you guys got any questions for me, feel free to shoot them out. And I saw somebody in here from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Can't remember who it was, but I actually teach epoxy classes at Woodcraft in Chattanooga.
Yeah, I think that's Larry. No,
Larry,
no,
Kevin,
what's
something?
no what? No,
It
wait a
was
minute.
Kevin. Was it Kevin?
I wanted to say his name is Larry, but oh yeah, Kevin Rich. We've got another guy. I think his last name's Brooms or something like that, but he's from up Tennessee. But
Cool.
Kevin Rich says he's from Chattanooga. What's up, North Alabama? How are you, sir? Hello, Miss Sharon. Miss Sharon got her MK2 working. She's happy, and she didn't have to use the support line. she she got she used the Clack Shack support line.
Ah, yeah, I heard she was missing a build manual or something. So you must have gotten her some information.
No, it was a incooperative USB hub was the problem.
Ah,
Full disclosure, I do have a laser, just so everyone's aware. I do. I have the X Tool D1. It's over in the corner. I use it
Yeah,
occasionally.
yeah. I've got a couple, and Steve's got a couple as well.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
I have the, for those of you that don't know, I have in my main shop, I have the Shapeco 5 Pro 4x4. And then I just recently acquired the Avid CNC from Jay Bates, which is the 4x10 with a rotary. So it's a little daunting,
Yeah.
but it is up and running now.
Brian's wanting to know if I offered you chicken livers when we met, but he's from Georgia, Brian, so that's probably not a big stretch for him.
Yeah, we're just across the line. No big deal.
Do y'all eat chicken livers over there, Greg?
Yeah,
Because they,
some people do. Greg does not, but some people do.
no, they give me a hard time about my
My kind of
cuisine
guy.
choices.
I know a guy.
They, they,
They do actually eat them up here too. Some people.
well, that's my people up there.
Well,
When I
I
come up
mean,
there, maybe I'll get to meet some of them.
probably
They sound
not.
like
No.
stand up people.
Mm.
Steve's actually going to be down here in our neck of the woods here soon. Coming up the 20th. You're going to be here the 20th, right?
Well, I should be getting in there late the 19th.
Okay, so
Um, but yeah, I'll be
probably
there.
not going to be doing anything much that day, though.
That's gonna be well. Depends on how they're trying to work. They keep extending my my time on Thursday. My idea was to work a couple hours, get on the road. I have a meeting in the afternoon. Luckily, it's online, so I'm going to take a pause somewhere in Iowa, take that meeting, and then continue on the road. But they keep finding more things they need me at in the morning on Thursday, so I might not get as far as I thought I would. But I'll get there Friday if it's late. But I'll be there late Friday.
I'm going to pay him back, Greg. Don't worry. I am going to pay him back. He's been rocking that clack face back there, which apparently I look a lot like Colonel Sanders in that photo, but he's been rocking that for the last couple of videos. So I'm working on a comeback for him, but I'm gonna get him. Yes, Brian, Steve is coming to visit on 420. And that is just a coincidence, too, that's when May's having her open house.
I mean, if I was celebrating 420, I wouldn't leave Minnesota, apparently. But
yeah. But all in all, but one of the things, guys, y'all know I'm relatively new to CNCs. But see, I've been watching some of Greg's videos and trying to pull this stuff off. That's some mahogany, and that's a 3mm thick piece of pecan that I put in there, and learning lots of lessons about doing these, the things to do, not to do, and modifying the method. But Greg's pretty good at these things, way better than I am. But consider this is my second one. I think it went okay.
Looks good.
Yeah, the first one, not so great, but it works. I had a few little issues with it, but that's actually why there's two pieces of wood in there, because the first one was a little bit of a mess up. So I put another piece of wood in there to try to hide it.
The devil's in the details.
And it worked somewhat. But but yeah, I used your method that I saw a couple of your videos, and I've kind of took and pulled parts from that and some of the other ones. I watched some of IDC Woodcraft's videos. I watched a bunch of different people's videos and try to pick pieces from each video and just playing with it and see which technique worked best for me. I really wish on the Shapeoko 5 they would fix the problem of not being able to use the bit setter with that dust shoe that I have, because
Which one do you have?
I've got the Pro one that goes up under the bottom.
That's what I have.
It'll slam into that bit setter if you don't raise it between bit changes. So
Yeah.
So I've got to where I just don't use the bit setter. I wish they'd have dropped that bit setter down to the surface of the bed. That way it wouldn't be a problem. But
Yeah, I've actually talked to Kevin at Carbide about that, because I have now in my mind, every time I do it, I have a certain thing I go through where I raise it up all the way every single time I change a tool, just by memory. Because yes, I've unfortunately slammed it into the bit setter more than once.
And that bit setter doesn't move.
No, it does not.
It's solid.
It definitely is. Yep.
But yeah, that's the only grumble I've got about the machine. And even if I were to say, create a recess in my bed to place that thing, then you got to go into the software and make changes before it would actually work. So
Yep.
I can't do that. So that's the two things I wish they would do, because I've even thought about, because with this machine you could actually pull the gantry a little bit forward so that the bit will actually go over the top of the table.
Yep.
And I've thought about, pulling mine forward like that and mounting it on the table so it would be lower, but it won't work without being able to put in the distance, below the bed or whatever.
Yeah, I've got a guy. Well, this is not, nobody knows about this. I've got a gentleman. I can tell you later. I don't want to say right now, but he's making a shoe for me specifically for this application that brings the hose back in front, but with a much better application to keep it from scrubbing on the axis and everything. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a problem with that. I made myself a little pipe to go inside the hose, 3D printed it, and that keeps it up off of my Z-axis motor. But that hole slamming into the sensor is still a problem. Larry Broom, that's who I was thinking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's Larry, Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Hey, Larry.
That's who I was thinking about a while ago. I knew he was from up that way somewhere.
You visit Woodcraft, Larry? Chattanooga?
So, how's it going there, Rick? Yeah, but
Jim asked if I use a Vetric. Yeah, so for the most part, yes. So I started out like most of us with the Carbide 3D stuff. I started out with Carbide 3D. I did go ahead and pay for the Carbide 3D Pro. Waste of money. So I quickly upgraded to VCarve Pro. And then actually, when we were at Workbench Con, I spoke with the guys at Carveco. Super nice guys. They actually sent me a complimentary version of Carveco Maker Plus. I am currently learning, so I don't have anything to say about it yet because it's smarter than me, and I haven't really figured it out yet. But those guys are awesome. But yeah, right now I'm using Vetric. I just actually started with version 12. If you haven't downloaded it yet.
Yeah, I downloaded it. I actually used it on the second project that I did. The first one I used my old 11.5 just because I'm used to clicking on the icon, but I opened up 12 on the second one. I haven't seen a lot of changes. It looks a little different, but I haven't, which, you know, like I said, I was relatively new to the old VCarve.
There's a few. They've got the new VCarve inlay toolpath that they came up with. Not happy with it at all because it completely goes against exactly how I do VCarve or do my inlays because it again has you plunging. I don't know if you saw my video where I do several different passes down to my total depth to keep you from plunging all the way down on your total depth, especially when you're doing your mill part. It doesn't address that. It has you plunging whatever you set it at directly down to that depth and starting.
No, I used basically a modified version of your technique. I watched your video, did basically the same. The first one I did using the Skinny Jenny, and then because of the detail that was in the engrave, I decided that 1/16 of an inch tip wasn't quite sufficient to get those clean lines on some of those sharper corners.
Yep.
So I took that and basically I just did a 3-bit setup to where I would run the flat end mill, then I would run the 1/16 Skinny Jenny, then I would run the 60-degree V-bit, and that seemed to cover all the bases because the V-bit left a lot of crud in the hole, whereas the 1/16 inch Skinny Jenny actually cleans that stuff out of there, so that when you do put the piece in, it doesn't have trash under it. You ain't got to sit there and try to sand all those little pieces out or whatever.
Yeah.
So with this design, I felt like the 30-degree. I'm learning now that with those sharp points and corners, you kind of got to put a V-bit, like a 30-degree or 60-degree V-bit in the mix. If it was mostly rounded, I think I would have been fine with the Skinny Jenny. But that's what I'm trying to learn. Like I said, it's not something that I've done a lot of. And I'm used to lasers, to be honest with you. I think I could have probably pulled this off easier with a laser, just because of the experience I have with them.
Yeah.
At making it, but you know, exactly the right size. But you know, it's getting better. Like I said, still
stay
watching.
tuned. Me and Cody's working on some stuff, so just stay tuned is all I can say. Working on some stuff in the background. So,
yeah, Rick, it's a good addition. Like I said, I use the lasers and the CNC together, just like with this other cutting board I did over here with the state on it. I'm planning on engraving something on it with a laser too, but I'm kind of torn what I want to put on there. But it's I like mixing them up. I actually, now that I've got the 70 watt here, that takes the possibility of inlays to a whole new level.
what did Rick? What did he have? What did he get? I see he said he got his CNC in the box and hasn't put it together. What did he get?
I have no idea. Rick, what CNC do you have? I haven't ever seen it, so I don't know what it is. Apparently, he still got it in the box. But yeah, it's coming from lasers over to CNCs, it was a little bit of a learning curve. And I've got a buddy of mine that I've been trying to get him into lasers for the longest, and he finally got one Friday from me, and he was sending me pictures today, and he's come a long way. Like he figured it out on his own in 2 days, and he's actually turned out projects already. So, well, I say on his own. He's been watching a lot of my videos.
It's
The
a
directions
direction.
said 4 hours. What kind of machine is it, Rick?
That sounds like a Shapeco.
I mean, it could be. I don't know about 4 hours though. Mine didn't really take that long.
Not with the 5, but now I did a video on the Pro. It took me a little while to get the Pro done because you had to run all the belts and everything with it. It was belt driven, not ball screw like the 5.
Well, you see what Steve's got sitting over his shoulder, don't you?
Yeah, I was going to say, well,
that
it's
a
cluttered
150?
with some other stuff. But, I mean, if you want the easy build, the table's the harder thing to build because once you get that set up, the Onefinity can go together in probably half an hour.
Yeah,
it's really like 3 parts plus your spindle.
Yeah, we literally, when we were at Workbench Con, it was so funny because I don't have a Onefinity at all, and those guys were there, and of course I was there with Hamilton, and we were putting together Hamilton's Onefinity. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I managed to be able to help them. So Onefinity is actually super easy to put together.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah, Steve tried talking me into getting one of them, but because of what we do with the channel and everything, I felt like having 2 different machines would benefit overall. And there was only a handful of folks that I found on YouTube that had a Shapeco 5, and you were one of them.
Yep.
And 731 Woodworks has one, which you don't see in the videos a whole lot. And I think there's a couple of other guys, Redneck Woodworking or something like that. He has one. But
Yeah, Matt does most. He has the 2x4 machine, which is an awesome machine for a small shop.
yeah. Yeah, Jeff said that he went the other way. He started with CNC and went to a laser. It's actually, I think that transition would be easier.
Well, that's what I did, and yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. There's a higher learning curve when you get started on a CNC, although
Yeah.
fewer fires.
Very true.
Well, just in case I did mount a fire extinguisher over there on the CNC table, just in case. You never know.
You can still start fires with CNCs. You know?
Yes, you can.
It's not. I mean, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, I had 2 of them, and I didn't see that because I got the one right here. That this is my mid range. Like of course, my water spritz bottle is my go to for most every situation I've ever had, but that's like mid range, and then I've got my big boy over about the door. But so far, I've never had to escalate past level 1. And that was doing one of those coconut hair rugs. Those things go up like a Roman candle. Just if you ever want to try to engrave on one.
I just got my Avid set up, and that's been something else.
Mark is asking. He's got a very solid rolling assembly bench with a maple top. Could use that as a table for 150. Well, it's got to be big enough. So they do have the size of that. The things you're looking for in your bench top for CNC is you want it to be very flat and you want it to be very stable. So depending on how rolling that is, if you can lock those wheels or if you have like the type where you can drop them down to the posts, you don't want it moving around a lot. And so having a level heavy duty bench top is great, but you also got to worry about the whole thing moving if you've got it on casters. So it could.
Yep.
Kind of a couple factors you gotta take into account there.
Yeah, when I built my table, I put the double lockers on it. So not only do they not roll, they won't rotate either. So it doesn't move. And Steve, are you frozen?
Hear me?
Yeah, I think you're freezing up a little bit over
I
there.
think he's just lagging.
He needs an IT guy. I've been trying to get somebody to go out and work on his network for him. But yeah, it looks like he's froze, and that's an
Now
awesome.
Now he's froze for sure.
Yeah, but we'll give Steve a minute. That's a pretty flattering look that he has there. So we'll just let that stay on the screen for now, in hopes that he comes back. If he does get kicked out, I'm sure he'll be back shortly. But oh,
Yep, there he left us.
he didn't make it. But yeah, the thing that I did when I built my table, I was still on the fence about whether I was going to get a 150 or the Shapeoko. I had it narrowed down to the two. And so that's why if you look at that table back there, it is very robust. Like I've got 2x4 grid built underneath that 3/4 inch plywood, double 2x4s around the outer band is double 2x4s, and then I got double 2x4s running through the middle as well. And then I have blocks every 12 inches inside like every square foot it's basically framed with 2x4s. And I had planned, if I got the 150, on putting another sheet of that 3/4 ply under the bottom to even secure it even more. But when I went with the Shapeoko and it has the aluminum rails and all that, that's when I decided that it was sturdy enough without the plywood under the bottom. And that also allowed me to be able to go under there and drill a few holes with a hole saw bit and run all the cabling through the table so that I don't have any dangling wires or anything like that. So
Yep.
it's but it doesn't move. Now, some of the stuff I've been doing lately, especially with that Skinny Jenny, because the speeds on it are so high, and when it's snatching back and forth, it tries to move the table, but it has not moved yet.
So I'm super aggressive, and I will tell anybody if you ever get any of my files that have feeds and speeds on them, do not use my feeds and speeds if you're squeamish, because I push that thing to the limit. Yeah, so I'll send Cody a video. So, hey, dude, I'm running your bit at this, and he's like, "How's it doing?" But yeah. Hey, kitty cat. Yeah, I've got the Avid set up in the other shop, and that thing, you talking about something that is like solid? That Avid is just so solid, dude.
Wait a minute, I forgot. We can bring Steve back to the chat.
There you go. Hey, check this out. Hang on. Am I able to share something with you here?
Maybe you should have buttons at the bottom.
Try to share. I was going to share you I just took a video or a picture today of my Avid. It's completely set up and running.
You should have you should have the ability to, yeah.
Does that show up now? Can you see it?
Yep.
I got her set up. Got her running.
So when are you gonna get around to putting these the wall boards and everything in?
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been noticing that. I was like, when's he gonna put his wall boards in?
I'm just happy that it's running and it can I actually flattened a couple of slabs for a table I'm doing the other day. And it amazes me at the power of that spindle is crazy.
Yeah, Kent said he started with a CNC as well. His first was a Genmitsu and quickly upgraded to Shapeoko 4 Pro. Then I got him in the lasers. So hey, lasers are fun.
Lasers are cool.
Yeah, I wanted all of it. I've got 3D printer now, which it's nothing special, but it makes the things that I need made. The CNC, the lasers. I mean, I can't think of too many more things that I need. If I had the room, I would love to have me a plasma table, but I do not have the room for that. I do not have the room for that right now.
Larry said earlier, trying to get in one of my classes. I think that was Larry. Larry, I've got a class coming up in June. I think it is on the Woodcraft schedule. But I'll go ahead and, since we're on the Clack chat today, I'll give you a little inside information. We got one coming up probably in August. We're actually going to be doing a 4-week class on building an epoxy table. It's not been posted yet, but it will be soon.
But Kevin said they have a CNC group at Woodcraft Chattanooga. They have a meeting. See, was it Friday at 6 p.m.?
Yeah, it's Friday. It's John. Talking about John Lanise, his class, Kevin. He's one of the instructors with me at Woodcraft Chattanooga. He does a CNC class. I try to stay out of that and leave him alone because that's his lane. And I do the epoxy stuff. But me and him talk a lot when it comes to CNC stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I see some folks talking about the casters for CNC tables. Mine has the casters. Like if I need to, let's say I want to do a 4x8 sheet and I'm going to index it and slide it through the machine, you have to be able to get it away from the wall to be able to do that. And so when I built the table, I put the rolling casters on it, but I've got the double locking casters. So not only does it lock the wheel from turning, like from rolling, but it also keeps it from pivoting. So with those double locking casters like that, you can actually lock them to where they're all opposing each other, and it makes it just even more rigid than what it would be if you just locked them. So I strategically place them and lock them so that, there's really no way it can move. And I haven't, like I said, I've run some pretty crazy speeds here lately. I got the Mini Genie the other day, and that little thing, it flies through the workspace.
It does.
And I was worried I was going to break it because it's an 1/8-inch bit, but man, it was smoking.
It does, man. Cody's bits are just, I talk to him pretty much daily, and I'm always pushing his bits. I actually, like, nobody knows this except for Cody so far, so you're the first. I burn up the bowl bit, the new bowl bit he came out with. I actually smoked it. Now, I put a lot of miles on it before I smoked it, but I give his bits hell, dude.
Yeah.
I run them as fast as I can, and they're pretty amazing. He does a really good job on them.
Yeah, well, I ordered me a flattening bit today. I've got an old Genmitsu flattening, or not Genmitsu. What's the company? Speed Tools.
Speed Tools. Spree. Spree Tools, whatever.
Yeah, I bought one of those off Amazon when I had the Genmitsu, and I've used it on this one, but I just don't like the way it cuts. If you don't get just the right setting, it wants to leave scorch marks and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I went on IDC, matter of fact, earlier before the show, and ordered, I think it was this 1-inch flattening bit. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I've been running a Genie, a downtown Genie. I prefer it over this 1.5-inch bit that I've got. Seem to have better results with it. And
I wish you'd have told me. I'm an affiliate for IDC Woodcraft.
Well, I don't. I
could have got you a discount.
Yeah, I wasn't too worried about the discount. Like I said, I just doing it to support them, but I figure I'll try his and see, because that'll be the third flattening bit that I have. And right now, like today when I was doing this second inlay, instead of breaking out that big 1.5 inch, which I think is a little bit much for my spindle, I broke out the downtown Genie, and instead of taking those real thin slices, heck, I was dropping it a millimeter at a time, taking the cap off the top of that inlay. And it seems like it goes faster than it would with the 1.5 inch bit. So
yeah, I use a bandsaw, dude.
My bandsaw is not big enough for these projects.
Is it not? Okay. Yeah, I've got a pretty big bandsaw, but yeah, that's what I try to do, is leave enough for my bandsaw to take it off.
That's one of the things I plan on getting, but I think mine's it's like a 9-inch Rikon, I think it is.
Yeah.
So it's not that big. If it was a coaster or maybe like a little small charcuterie board, I could have done it. But
yeah,
like this thing right here is one solid piece of magnolia.
Right.
Like it won't even go into planer.
So that would probably test the limits of my bandsaw.
Yes, that's 13 inches.
That is the absolute limit of my bandsaw. I can do 13 inches. Hey, Chris Galler, if you got stuff in your cart at IDC Woodcraft, definitely pick them up. But use the code STL Woodworking and you'll actually get 10% off.
Hang on a minute. Somebody's trying to call me, and it's not somebody calls me a lot. Somebody text them, make sure there ain't nothing bad going on.
No worries. I just have to throw it to Chris before he actually places that order button. And I'll tell you, Cody is supposed to join us. So if y'all got any questions for Cody at Jenny Bits, he's supposed to join us here tonight. I just actually talked to him a second ago. He's supposed to jump in here at some point.
All right. So
you want to throw that for IDC Woodcraft? And
yeah, that's what I'm.
Jenny
That's
Bits?
what I'm getting IDCs out right now.
Okay.
Yes,
and Cody's is the same, jennybits.com, and then the code is still the same, STL Woodworking.
so I don't have to share the code twice.
No, the code. So the code for everything is, let me just go ahead and throw it out here. You can throw them all out if you want. The code for everything is STL Woodworking, except for if you want to join us on CNC with me, which is Hamilton Dilbeck's community he's created. It's an amazing community. I'm a part of it. I'm one of the instructors over there. It's actually just STL, and that'll get you 15% off of your subscription to it, and it's a yearly membership.
Yeah. For those of you asking, no, I haven't blocked Steve. Steve said his internet went down, and he's trying to get it back going. But y'all know he doesn't have an IT guy over there. And I'm kind of busy right now to remote in and fix it for him. And if he doesn't have internet, it's kind of hard to remote in and fix it for him. But
poor feller.
Yeah. Well, hello there, Mia. I don't know if you're my biggest fan. I've met some of them. I've got a couple of guys that are like 6'6". So I don't know if you meant like physically biggest or what, but yeah, I was at one of the first events that I did. I had a guy show up and walked up to me. He's like, "You Clack?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. Should I be?" But yeah.
Are they
Of course,
at
Steve.
Workbench Con?
Yeah, of course, Steve's like 6'6" too. So he likes to call me short, even though I'm like, I'm not short.
Good grief.
Yeah, he's a big old youngin' now.
I'm short. I'm like 5'9".
Yeah. Yeah, Jim, take my advice. Do not, when you're putting those Jenny bits in and out of the spindle, do not let them slip in your fingers.
They will cut you.
They'll cut you. I learned that one the hard way.
They are sharp.
The new 70 watt is in the enclosure, and it is doing just fine. I kind of parked it where you can't really see it. Hang on, there we go. There's that beast. There it is. But yeah, that is the new 70 watt atom stack, and so far I am loving it. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I'm not gonna say that the dot's not bigger. It is, obviously, but it's still doing a pretty good job as far as the curve and everything goes. And they fixed a lot. I've got to do the full review video, but I wanted to run it for a week or two just to make sure it wasn't any like little glitches or something with it that I needed to point out to you guys. Greg Maymay is a crafter. She has a YouTube channel. She does mostly paper crafting, and I make a lot of stuff for Maymay. Like there's products in her shop that I make for her. Like she'll come up with an idea of something that she wants, and she will send it, like a concept or an idea to me, and I make it for her. But she's kind of been one of the folks that more or less kind of influenced me into doing a little more with my YouTube than I was in the early days. But her event's going to be April the 20th here at her business in Clanton. I just dropped a link to her channel. Feel free to go over there and tell her that the Clack Shack sent you. And like I said, if you're going to come to her event on the 20th, she will be there. I will be there, as well as Steve will be there. He's going to be camping at the Clack Shack for 2 or 3 days. And so we're going to go by there on the 20th for sure. And we'll be at her event. So Steve's actually located in Minnesota. I like to refer to him as Southern Canadian, but he's like right up there near the Arctic Circle somewhere in Minnesota because he has way too much snow.
Yeah, they can have that snow.
Yeah, he was getting snow like literally, I think 2 weeks ago, and I was like, dude, it's like 80 degrees here, and y'all are getting snow. But anyway, questions? Anything? I mean, I know we got Greg on here tonight, but we'll still answer whatever you guys has got, because if maybe we can talk Greg into getting him another laser, because the D1's a little like 3 years ago.
Man,
So
and
apparently you don't use it a lot.
I really, to be honest with you, if I could like, my camera is over there, but if I could turn it around and show it to you, I hardly ever use it at all, unfortunately.
Well, I will say I used my new Atom stack the other day to cut some 1/2 inch plywood. Where the lateral aluminum bars are under the CNC. I made some little pieces that slide across those and fit those real snugly, and then they protrude out past the lead screws and have screws that go into the table. That way, the CNC cannot move at all, because the front and the back has those little plastic covers on it. So I was afraid if I tried to put something there, it would still allow it to shift. But
Yeah.
I specifically designed those to where it can't move. There's 6 of them, 6 pieces of 1/2 inch plywood holding
cool.
those 3 center bars to the table. So
Hey, look
it's
who's in the
pretty
house.
pretty cool.
There is
Who's
Mr.
that?
Cody Elkins, Mr. Jenny Bits
Oh.
himself. What's up, Cody?
Yeah, he's almost. I've almost got the full set. You can see him sitting right there. I think I'm still missing like 4.
We can
And
hook
I'm
you
having
up.
Well, I'm having to space it out. Like I said, I bought me a flattening bit, and then I saw while I was buying the flattening bit, I saw something else over at IDC that I liked, which was his 1/4 inch roundover bit, and I was like, I could probably do that with some of my regular router bits I have here, but what the heck? So I went ahead and ordered it too. So
Look,
got
I've been
that coming.
bugging the crap out of Cody because since I got that Avid, I want some 1/2 inch bits. And
Yeah.
I've been bugging him to death, and he's like, shut up. I'll make some eventually.
Yeah. There's a good question for you, since you have a whole lot more experience with epoxy than I do, because I'm still learning the epoxy world too.
Let's see. What do you do on bottom of epoxy boards for you don't mess up the top molds? Top could struggle on the bottom. Not sure exactly what the question is. Bottom epoxy boards. So are you talking about like what do you pour the epoxy on if you're doing completely all the way through? Throw that in the comments. But so if you are, let me just cover a couple of things here, just in case one of them hits what he's asking. If you're going all the way through and you are going to go to some type of form that you've made, or mold that you're pouring into, I use tape. I actually use a silicone or a tuck tape. It's not tuck tape specific brand, but it's just any kind of tape works. If you're using silicone mold, it's fine. I don't use mold release on mine at all. I use the tape and it works just completely fine. Now, if you're not cutting all the way through and you're going to do like an epoxy inlay of some sort, I use shellac. I actually use shellac to seal my wood so it doesn't bleed over into my wood. If that's not what you were asking, please throw that back up there.
Yeah. I don't think English is, if I'm not mistaken, I think O'Grady's from somewhere over yonder.
Okay.
So I think that may have been a translation issue.
Yeah, if that doesn't answer, please say something and I'll answer it better. He's got us in his earbuds while he's working around the house.
Yeah,
Cody's
Cody's working on his honeydew list. Wait a minute. There he is. Yeah. Kevin, the D1 Pro, like I said, it's a good machine. I recently donated mine to a friend of mine. He's a retired veteran. He had one and he wanted to upgrade, and I wasn't using my D1 Pro, so I let him have it. But it's not a terrible machine to use. Lightburn does have a learning curve, but if you get in there between the videos that everybody has out there, me, Steve, Rich over at LA Hobby Guy, I mean, there's plenty of videos out there that, like I said, I got a buddy of mine that literally took a laser home Friday, and I was shocked to see that he hasn't called me and asked me questions or anything, but he was turning out projects today, sending me pictures of them. And he's really not that computer savvy. I mean, he can do basic, like photo editing and stuff like that, but he picked it up pretty quick and is turning out projects. So you just got to kind of get in there and play with it, and you'll figure it out. And like I said, when you run into a block and there's something that you can't figure out, there's always a video that somebody did that will help you out with that. What you got over there?
I just threw up. That's Cody. If anybody wants to see, okay, that's a snapshot from our video where I went out and interviewed him.
Yeah, I saw you were out there playing around with his machines the other day.
Yeah, we actually get to make 2 bits. We made 2 downtown Jennies, and I actually got to make them myself, which was pretty cool.
Did you like engrave your name on them or anything?
No, I'm not sure. Yeah, no, that would have been really cool. Cody, why didn't we do that? I did get to mill them up though. That was cool. That part of the CNC is so above my head that but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that seems like a very, very complex program.
It is. You just have to see all the stuff he had on the screen. It was like, let me just hit the start button.
Yeah, Josh says he thinks that O'Grady was talking about how do you finish the bottom of the board when you do a flood coat.
So, well, when I do a flood coat, kind of the bottom of the board's already done. You talking about the drips on the side, maybe?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So yeah, let me answer that. If that's wrong, again, ask again. I'll be happy to answer. So, what I do if I know I'm going to flood coat something, I actually take the board before I'm going to do the flood coat, and I actually tape around the edges. I put tape probably within a 1/16 of an inch of the edge and run it all the way around. That way, when I've done and the drips come off, I can actually pull the tape and it pulls all the drips off, and I've got very little sanding to do.
Yeah, I'm still learning, so I usually just sand them.
Yeah, if you'll just do that with the tape, you'll be good to go. Hey, you made it back.
You still got a little bit of a Minecraft look going on.
Yeah, well, I'm a hotspot through my phone, so
we'll
see how this works.
Somebody take out your landline.
Well, I got reconnected to it, but the upload was like 0.1 megabit per second, so I'm gonna have to spend some time with Spectrum tech support after this.
Well, the phone streaming is actually impressive, I'll just say.
Yeah, that's 5G Verizon, so hopefully it works.
Yeah,
that's what I have.
It seems to be working okay. But he's back, guys. See, I didn't block him. If I'd have blocked him, he wouldn't have got in. I had your stand in while you were gone, Steve.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But the funny thing is they've been doing some survey work, all the utility locating, and they have a proposed telco route going right through my front yard, which I believe is one of the local fiber companies. So I'm keeping an eye on that.
Maybe you can move up. And see, that kills me. You up there in the big city in Minnesota, and
well,
you don't have fiber. I'm out here in the backwoods of Alabama, and I've got a gig internet in my shop.
Well, there's been a lot of push for rural broadband equity.
Yeah, that's it.
No, I mean seriously, there is, and there are a lot of places.
I was on the grant.
Yeah, there's a lot of places now in rural areas that have better. I mean, because I basically have one option here, one realist. I have two, but the other one is the telco DSL, which is a joke. So I've got the one option right now where most of my staff, and they have two fiber companies in town. They just haven't decided to drop it in my neighborhood yet. So
Yeah. No, they actually sent out like see I'm my electricity comes through a local cooperative that's like just literally basically Central Alabama Electric Co-op. And they were one of the first companies that were like, hey, we have poles already. We have the infrastructure in place. We want to build a fiber network. And so they applied for a lot of those grants and stuff that they were doing and got awarded them. And they sent out basically a little thing saying, hey, if we offered internet, would you get it? And I'm like, heck yeah. So it was a year and a half or two before they got the network built. But dude, it has been the best thing since sliced bread because I now have, like I said, a gig of internet. I got a gig up, a gig down, low latency. It works great. Now, used to, I had to like bounce it out here to the shop wirelessly. But if you remember that year that the tree died, I had rented me a ditch witch and trenched it out here and ran water and internet. I ran two Cat 6 cables out here, one to use and one as a backup just in case something happens to the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, subsequently, the tree died that y'all accused me of murdering. But
The shoe fits.
yeah, but I've been really pleased with the service so far. My biggest thing right now is I'm looking at investing in a new computer for out here, but I'm wanting to get one that I can build a dust-proof enclosure for because, like, I mean, you can look at this keyboard and see it's dusty in here. I mean, I've got all kind of dust filtration. It don't help. It's still dusty. Too much work going on.
That'll happen in a shop.
Yep. If I ever get around to it, I'm gonna build me another shop, and I'm gonna have like a dust zone and a dust free zone. That's my plan.
I have that plan for my 40 by 60 shop.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm glad to have bigger because right now I can't segregate everything into dust free because the CNC most of the time is relatively low dust. But I have found that when doing surfacing, those surfacing bits act like the propeller on a boat, and they push that dust out the bottom faster than you can suck it up through the top.
Yep.
And so surfacing seems to be very dusty regardless. I almost want to put me like a curtain around the thing so I can close it when I'm surfacing.
Yeah, I have the, I think, I'm not going to speculate, but I think I have the same one he has in the back there. Is that the Jet 1100?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So I have the same one in my main shop that runs my 4-inch stuff. Now with the new Avid, I actually have the new Jet, the big one. I think it's a D1 or DC, whatever. But anyway, it's got a 6-inch port on it, and there's no dust at all.
Nice. It definitely makes a big difference when you can catch it at the source.
Yeah. That Jet's awesome. The 1100. I've been using it for a little while, and it's now I have my 5 Pro dedicated to a Rikon. It's just that's all it does, just completely dedicated, and it does good.
Well, right now for my dust collection, I'm running that the Shopsmith just to the CNC. Like it runs nothing else but the CNC. I've got the 12-inch stack on it right now, the top filter, but they're supposed to be sending me the 24-inch. They sell like a 48-inch, but that looked a little absurdly large. That's supposed to take the micron level down lower, plus it'll function with normal suction longer because it doubles the surface area of the inside of that top portion.
Yeah,
but that's supposed to be coming. I haven't got a shipping notification on it, but I emailed with them the other day, and they said they're going to send me the 24-inch for the top of it, which the 12 is working fine, but I have been taking it off and blowing it out and just going outside and getting the dust out of it periodically just to make sure. But I have still not filled up that 30-gallon bag that hangs under the bottom of it. Now, I put a hurting on it the past 2 days.
I'd be careful filling it up all the way. It becomes a little unwieldy.
Yeah. I ain't going to fill it up all the way. I figure about 50% just so I have enough to like.
Yeah.
But now the good news is too, worst case, the Shopsmith does more or less look like a set of hand trucks. So I could just roll it outside and take the bag loose if I needed to. But yeah,
I would think in your case it would be nice if you could rig up just like a, like a 30-gallon garbage can or something, or a 50-gallon, something like that underneath it, and then just be able to disconnect that, wheel it out, and dump it in your burn thing. So
yeah. Well, the sawdust, I usually put it in the garden or in the chicken pen so
yeah,
they can compost
whatever.
it for me. Yeah. But yeah, so far, like I said, it hadn't filled up yet, which I'm only running it's not like I'm feeding a planer into it. I'm only running the CNC in it. My planer actually blows straight out through the wall into a big pile outside. Then I take the tractor and scoop it up and take it up the hill and put it in the compost or burn it or whatever I do with it that day.
It's a good way to do it, because otherwise that will fill it up in a hurry.
Yeah. Who is that? Aldrich?
Aldrich Customs is asking, have you tried using PVC boards for epoxy inlay? I've done a couple where I needed a white background, and so far so good. I haven't. I'm a rookie at this.
Yeah, I don't use PVC at all. Mine's completely all wood. If I'm going to, I've got two choices. I either do wood and epoxy or solid epoxy inlays, and that's it.
Cool. Steve, you have this thing, don't you? But have you used it yet?
Not yet. It takes up so much space.
Yeah.
So I need to get set up to be able to rig it up. But I honestly don't feel like it's something I would use. I mean, I would have to set it kind of in the middle of the shop. I'd have to take over the table saw spot so it has the infeed and outfeed space. So unfortunately, I haven't, and I see more people, more places coming out with them. So I'm curious how popular they're going to be with the diode lasers and such.
Yeah, when well, X-Tool offered to send me the conveyor, and I told them don't send it to me because I can't use it in my shop. I don't have enough room for it. So when they sent me mine, they just sent me just the P2 with the riser. But they were trying to push that conveyor on me, and I was like, guys, I'm not going to use it. I have nowhere I can set it up, because if you're going to use that riser, I think you kind of need to put your laser in the middle of your workshop, like you said, to where you could set those feed tables up on both sides of it. And I can't do that in here at all. I still haven't got my other table built to where I can clean this mess right here up, but maybe one day.
So I can probably answer that one from
sorry.
Mark. Sorry, I was going to answer that one from Mark. Lost it. Was it?
There you go.
Yeah, pressure pots. So I use a vacuum for anything deep. Anything that I'm going to use for a tabletop or anything art resin, something like that, you don't want to put that in a vacuum pot. It'll wind up curing before you can actually get the bubbles out of it. But anything that I do that is deep, meaning anything over 1 inch, pretty much, I always put it in a pressure pot to extract the bubbles before I pour it. You don't really have to, because the deep pour resins will always usually have plenty of time to off gas. But I do it just because, hey, that's me. Same thing. I use a torch with them all too, and I don't necessarily have to.
Well, it's fun popping the bubbles, right?
It's just fun. It looks good when you pop the bubbles.
Yeah.
So I saw this one earlier before I went offline, but maybe we want to take a stab at that. Bought some Total Boat slow cure, and it sets up in 20 minutes. Any ideas why? I have my theories, but
so full disclosure, I don't use Total Boat. My channel is actually sponsored by Super Clear. But what I can say is just in epoxy in general. Are you using? I'm assuming you're using the slow cure hardener. If you are, yes, that's still a fast curing epoxy. It's not a deep pour epoxy. The slow curing hardener is just to give you a little bit more open time than like the fast, but it's still slow. I'm sorry, it's still pretty fast. It's still within 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes. If you want a true long open time, you're going to have to, if you're going with Total Boat, you're going to have to use something like the Fathom, the deep pour Fathom. if you want a longer open time.
It also is gonna. There's a few other factors too. I mean, the temperature that you're working with, the epoxy is creating an exothermic reaction, and that's what cures it. So the hotter your material and your environment is, that's going to have an impact on your cure time. And also, the deeper, the pore you go, that the stronger. They're amplifying each other. So if you have a real thin layer in a cool shop, it's going to take longer. But if you go really deep, that whatever your cure time is, it's going to start flashing sooner. So if you're going too deep for it is, or if you've mixed in too much hardener as well, that can also accelerate that exothermic reaction. So you want to make sure you're getting the right mixture and not going beyond their depth recommendations. If you followed everything to a T and it still is faster than what they advertised, maybe reach out to them. It's an odd chance you got a bad batch of hardener or something, but few things to keep in mind with working with epoxy.
Yeah, that would be my first question to midnight is how deep are you going with that pour? I see a lot of people trying to go too deep with the tabletop and art resin and wind up with the flash cure.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen fire started with like the 5-minute epoxy that they try to mix way too much and it's condensed into a cup. You can burn yourself on that. So
yeah, the very first time I ever messed with any, I've got some epoxy that I ordered off of Amazon, and it was some of the deeper pour stuff. And I was pouring it out of a plastic cup, and I set the cup down after I got everything poured. And it still had about that much in it, and I looked over, and it was starting to like lean, and I was like, "Whoa, that's not supposed to be happening." And I reached and picked it up, and it was like had been in the oven. I was like, "Uh oh." Yep. So I took it outside and threw it in the burn pile just in case. But yeah, that's. I haven't had that with this maker epoxy. It doesn't seem to get the stuff that they donated me over in Georgia. I've been playing with it. It doesn't get hot like that I've noticed. Which now I'm only, like I said, I'm painting this stuff on and pouring it in little small laser engraved inlays and stuff. So but it hasn't. I haven't seen that much heat out of it.
As long as you stay 1/4 inch or less, you'll be completely fine with the maker epoxy or tabletop epoxy for that matter. Any of them will be fine at 1/4 inch or less.
Yeah, when I poured this guy, I think it was like I want to say maybe like a little over 1/8 thick.
Yeah.
And it didn't even get warm. So,
yep.
But yeah, I've been playing around. Like I said, it's not something I'm good at. I just enjoy playing. I see other people doing cool stuff, and I'm like, wonder if I could do anything remotely close to that. So I try it.
I just poured one the other day that was I think I put the video out last week, but it was like a 2 1/4, maybe 3, nearly a 3-inch pour.
For the table you did for the paramedics or whatever.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I watched that one. I was some of my research that I was doing on my epoxy, and I was like, I'm not pouring that thick, and I'm definitely not mixing up whole 5-gallon buckets of epoxy.
I just did one today. Actually, I poured for a table. It's not a video. It's except for my channel members, they got to see it, but it's a ocean type coffee table, and it was only about 1 3/4 inch pour.
Yeah. This is a curious question. With all machines, I set mine up to have a park location, and the way that you're going to want to do that is just simply go to the Move tab. If you look up in the top right corner of the Move tab, and hang on, I'll see if I can show you my screen here. If you look right here in this area on the Move tab, that's my park. I got a park location. This is my X40 setup, and then I've got my stove cover center of design location. But go to Manage right here on the right side, and all you got to do is just hit Add New, and then you can name it and put the X and Y coordinates that you want it to go to. If you have a machine that is Z-axis enabled, you can also set that. I don't recommend it because a lot of times the Z-axis is dependent on the focus, and you could cause yourself a grind. So I wouldn't really mess with this. But you can definitely set these up, and you can have, I guess, as many as you want. And that's what I use for my different machines. Like I said, if I switch over to like my A70 Pro, if it'll switch to it, there we go. If you'll look, I only have a park location on it, and then on the MK2, kind of the same thing. That's one of the things that I set that up on all of my machines, especially the ones that like the home front left, because that module's always in the way. So once you home it, as soon as it homes, you can send it to the park location, and that gets it out of the work area so you can get your material in and out. So if you're not doing that, I would recommend it, especially for the front left homing machines. Because if not, you have to put your material in and then home. It's just more convenient to have this, because all you've got to do is go over here and click on it and do that, and it'll send it to wherever you've got it assigned. But yeah, that's how you do that. It's in the move tab. So there you go. Yes, he is around Mankato. I've heard him talk about it before.
Hey, congratulations on pronouncing it correctly.
I've heard you say it enough.
I was going to show you too. We were talking about those inlays, and second, I'm going to pull it up just to give you an idea of kind of what my tool paths look like when I do those inlays. There you go. So instead of doing like one pass, this is what my actual tool paths look like. Of course, I group everything together so I don't have to do as many bit changes. But if you're going to do a deep inlay, this is kind of what your tool path should look like. Otherwise, you're going to plunge your bit super deep, and you're just going to wear out your bit sooner. Just FYI.
Cool. Yeah, I watched that video too.
Did you?
Yeah, I watched yours. I watched IDC Woodcrafts. I found several others. Like I watched a whole bunch of different ones to try to make sure I had the general idea down, and then I just kind of mixed and matched the different approaches that I saw and tried to come up with something that would work for me. And there were some lessons that I had to learn about those little sharp corners, and which, the design dictates which bit you need to use. I have
It
learned
really
that.
does. Yeah.
If it's a square or rounded design, it's a lot less sensitive to which bit you use than if it's got a lot of detail stuff to it.
Yep.
So those are things that I've learned along the way, and I'm going to go down this rabbit hole for a little while and figure out what works for me and what doesn't, and then maybe try to put a video together on my progress in that world. James is asking a good question. Says, can you give me some pros and cons for the Onefinity Elite versus the Shipoko, and experience with Cam Master? Maybe I don't have that.
Me neither.
I mean, as far as the Onefinity versus the Shipoko, I mean, there's a few differences.
Well, and it's the Onefinity Elite versus, the one I have. So it's even harder to speak to that. But if you're looking at the Shipoko 5 Pro versus the Elite, they're both very, very capable machines, very, very similar capabilities with some minor differences between the two. But pros and cons. I mean, it sounds like the Shipoko takes a little bit longer to build.
Not really, no, except for those screws in the bed. Those screws in the bed take a little while.
Yeah, it does.
Like you're gonna want to take a little drink break or something, putting that bed together, because there's
the
50 something screws.
Yeah, the hybrid table has got like a ton of screws. I can tell you the advantage over the Shipoko that the Onefinity has. I actually have started the process today. As a matter of fact, I have the PWN CNC 80 millimeter spindle that I'm upgrading to. It's a little more daunting and difficult to upgrade it on the Shipoko than it is the Onefinity. But I foresee it being a very good upgrade. I can't speak to it personally because I literally started that task today.
Yeah. Yeah, because I would imagine you'd have to get a new the new clamp for it. That would be the biggest thing that I would see
Yeah,
because it
there's a
comes with a
clamp.
65 millimeter.
You've got to do you have to do the clamp. There's a pigtail you have to actually plug into the actual board to allow it to control the spindle. There's a few different little things you got to get used to on it. Now you're going from a 65 millimeter spindle to a I think it's a 2.2 kilowatt 220 volt spindle. So huge difference as far as power goes. The machine can definitely handle it. The Shapeco 5 is pretty rigid, but the 65 millimeter. I don't know if you've seen so far. I've had a lot of instances where the limiting factor was the actual spindle, not the machine.
The only time I have any problems, like I said, is that 1.5 inch flattening bit. It seems a bit much. I guess because it's 1.5 inches and that fulcrum. That's why when I ordered the one from IDC, I went with the 1 inch, because I do notice with that particular bit that there's times when, especially when it's turning, that it kind of sounds like it might slow it down a little bit at times.
Yeah.
But other than that, I will say, coming from a Makita router, this is twice. I mean, this is way, way more powerful. But I would say, like I said, that would be my only thing is I've been able to play with my speeds and feeds to keep that spindle to where it doesn't sound like it's in a bind. And with the 1/4 inch bits, whether it be a ball, flat end mill, or a ball bit, it doesn't matter. With those guys, I have yet to slow it down. But I could see where, more horsepower is always, I guess, a better thing. And I also, after watching some of the flattening and stuff like that with the dust, I see the benefits of the water cooled spindles too, because you don't have the air from the spindle pushing down, blowing the dust out the bottom as much. Because at some point, your spindle's kind of counterproductive to your vacuum. You got vacuum pulling this way and spindle blowing that way.
Yep.
So I'm starting to see where liquid cooled would be a bit of an advantage in dust collection.
I can let you know, because the PWN CNC spindle that I have is actually water cooled. So this will be my first water cooled spindle.
Yeah. Now, as far as quiet, this one's quiet. I mean, you can't even hear it running. But that's the only benefit that I see to the water cool would be, like I said, dust control, because it wouldn't be pushing against, your chip extraction.
Yep.
Because that's the way that this thing's set up. The problem is the bottom of the spindle's down here blowing down, and then your suction's coming in right up under the gantry up here. So it's kind of fighting a losing battle there.
Yeah.
Unless you've got, if you're running a bit that's generating big chips, I don't see a problem with it. It's just when it gets real dusty with those surfacing bits or whatever.
Yeah. I can tell you, James, I met the guys at Onefinity at Martin Richcon. They're super awesome guys. I can tell you, with my experience with Carbide 3D and the Shapeco products, so as far as customer service, they are probably, to this day, bar none, customer service. They are amazing. I burn up two routers, because I started with the router. I didn't start with spindle. And I burn up 2 of their routers right off the bat. And they, no questions asked, they overnighted me the routers before I upgraded to the spindle. So they're pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, see, I had the 6050, the Jimitsu, and I'd been running the Makita router for a while. And, Steve talked me into going ahead and getting a spindle. He's like, a spindle's always going to be better. And he was right. And I love the spindle on this thing. Yep. I do think that they'll probably come out with an upgrade for it later, but who knows when that'll be.
They are.
Yeah.
I spoke with them a couple of weeks ago. They actually are in the middle of developing the 80 millimeter for the Shapeco 5. But who knows when it's going to be out.
Yeah, it'd be even better if it would actually work with the same controller.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be even better, where you could just swap the spindle itself out.
Yep.
But other than the price, when I was doing my shopping, the biggest difference was the price of the Elite 4 foot by 4 foot. By the time you figured the price of the machine the cost of having to build a more rigid table, which I built a table that would have worked for a 150 because I didn't know which one I was ordering, but I wanted to go ahead and get my table built. So you can run the Shipoko on a little bit less robust table because it has its own aluminum frame and everything. But with the 150, whatever's under it is the frame of the machine for the most part. So you gotta take extra consideration for that. But lead times were a big thing with the 150. Now, according to 150, because they've commented on a couple of my videos, according to 150, their machine actually will push the bit faster than the Shipoko. But so far, I haven't had any situations where I couldn't push a bit fast enough.
Well, you're limited on the Shipoko to about 250 inches per minute.
Yeah. And I haven't ran that fast with any bit that I've got. I don't know that I will because I'll just be sitting there waiting on something to break and fly off at me or something.
You can do it, and you do have to go into the settings and change that. From the factory, the fastest you're going to get out of, I don't care what you set your feeds and speeds for in your program, 196 inches per minute is as fast as you're going to get out of the Shipoko machine, unless you do a little bit of alterations.
Yeah, and I think that's plenty.
And as of early April, they've actually reduced the lead times on the 150 Elites down to about 4 to 6 weeks. So I don't know that that's a factor anymore.
Well, and there's a chance that maybe the Shipokos has went up because it was only like 3 or 4 weeks on the Shipoko when I ordered it. No, they may have actually went up.
Well, all I know is there was a very antsy Clack for a few weeks there. But yeah, I mean, speaking to support on the 150 side too, they've been very responsive, and I think they're one of those companies where if you approach them with the right attitude, they're definitely going to work with you. I've seen them go above and beyond. I know they've answered some of my questions. I had an issue with the cable. They got one out pretty quickly to me as well. So I feel like, and they're Canadian based, so they're kind of North American based as well. So, you're going to, I feel, get pretty good support. Now, if you're the type that's going to go into them as a bull in a china shop, I don't think you're going to get the good support. They're going to do as little as they can to get you to be quiet and go away versus actually try to retain you as a customer. But
yeah,
I think both companies, from what I've heard, really do go above and beyond what they can to support their customers. So both seem to be pretty solid choices.
Yeah, well, so far I haven't had to use Shipoko's customer service, so I can't really
awesome.
I can't really speak to it. So what? Why is my VCAR version 12 saying that I'm limited? I must have upgraded the wrong license. Huh. Well, let me open it over here. Somebody's asking me a question, and I don't remember. So I'm having to go in and look.
Did you said you upgraded to the 12?
Yeah, I did, but apparently, see, I've got 2 licenses. I got one apparently for the desktop, and I got one for Pro.
Oh wow!
And I don't know how that happened exactly, but I clicked the upgrade button using Pro the other day. Well, now it says VCarve Desktop 12.0. Yeah, I don't know why it hasn't updated. Maybe it's a whole different update. Maybe I need to click this other button. But anyway, let me look at this. Look at this design right quick.
Yeah, I just updated mine the other day. Apparently, I got it for free. I guess Are they charging for that if you're outside of a certain window?
I think it's 6 months for the free.
It depends. I think they give you one. I don't know that it's like a time limit. It's more of like if you bought 11.5, they'll give you the next full release. So like you would probably get 12 for free included it, whether it's a year or beyond. And then after that, I think so. Like I have 11.5, but I've had it for. I think I originally bought 10 10.5 or something like that.
Okay.
So I'm outside. I'd have to pay, I think it's $170 or
That makes
125
sense.
to upgrade it. But usually, and it may have changed, but usually it was like they would guarantee you'd get the next full version, whether it's a 0.5 or 1.0. So
That makes sense. I actually started with 11.5 because I was with Shapeco's or Carbide 3D's program before that, and then so it's been. I'm still within that window, so I got to upgrade to 12 for free.
So somebody was asking me a while ago about the let's see, free. You've been getting a free. Yeah, it's only the version 12 desktop. It's not my pro for some reason. Hang on, give me just a second. Version 12. Yeah, not sure. I'll have to look into that. For some reason, it's only giving me the choice to get the one. But somebody was asking me about the Lexan that I did the other day. The bit that I used for the engrave was it was actually, I started out with the Skinny Jenny, but I needed a finer tip. So I wound up going with the Speed Tools taper ball nose. It's a 1/32 tip. And I was running like 9,000 on the spindle with 100 inches per minute and 10 on the plunge to do the engraving. And that gave me real smooth, clean cuts. And for the cutout on it, I ran the Speed Tools Zero Flute upcut end mill at 10,000 RPMs, 100 inches per minute, and 10-inch plunge. And I didn't shatter the Lexan. That was my goal, was to not put the bit in a bind so that it snatched on the Lexan and busted it. Because that stuff, a couple of my test runs, it did actually try to suck up with the if you run that. I will tell you, if you go too big of passes with the that upcut ball nose, it will act as a drill and kind of snatch the material up to you. So I think I went with like literally 0.5 millimeter passes just
Oh
to
wow!
keep it from gripping the Lexan.
I've never
It turned
cut
out,
Lexan.
it turned out good though. Well, it was a piece that somebody was throwing away, and I saw it trash can, and I'm like, hey, free test material.
Free stuff.
So, oh, no, I'm looking for questions. Looking for questions. Mark, the return to location is different than a park location. Oh, I also run a return to location, but it's the same location. But park, you don't have to actually send a burn to get it to do it. You can just click the button; it'll move up there on its own. Oh, there's a question for you.
So yeah, it depends.
That's Steve's favorite answer.
Yeah, it depends. If I am going for the absolute clear, beautiful, epoxy finish, I'm going to use a flood coat. But for me, totally not sponsored, Rubio Monocoat is pretty much my go-to on anything outside of a flood coat, including epoxy. Just keep in mind, if you're going to go with Rubio, as far as your epoxy goes, Rubio is going to work really well for your wood. You're going to need to actually go through and polish your epoxy. So you're going to have to sand through your grits all the way up to I'll do as much as 5,000 wet sand on my grits, and then I'll come back with the polishing compound. You don't have to get fancy with the polishing compound. You can use turtle wax automotive compound, but you do need to wet sand up to about 3,000 to 5,000 grit before you do the polishing. But on all my epoxy projects, wood projects, no matter what the finish is, I do a ceramic coating on top of those. I do use Carbon Method. They're a supporter of my channel, but I do use a ceramic coating on all of my projects.
Yeah, I was introduced to that carbon method stuff by Chris at A Glimpse Inside. He's been using it on his tools anyway, and
Yeah.
I'm so getting to see that in his shop, I was kind of like, okay, I really need to do that to my tools. So I can imagine, does it do that kind of similar, very smooth finish on your furniture then too? I mean,
It does. It really does. It gives it a good layer of protection on it. I recommend it for anything that's going to see any kind of traffic. It's really
Very
good. I know Chris pretty well. He's a good guy.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's you don't have to use carbon method. I mean, just full disclosure that they're a sponsor, but you can use Cam at Blacktail Studios has a good one. Black Forest Epoxy guys, they have a good ceramic coating. Any of those ceramic coatings are great.
So just definitely don't use the table as a ladder anymore. You might slide right off of it.
Correct.
Yeah, apparently that's what it is. Apparently one of my license got the free upgrade and the other did not.
That's weird.
Yeah,
I,
look. A few people mentioned it in the chat as well. I had to find it on their page. So you get minor versions anytime, but any major version within 12 months you should get as well, free of charge.
yeah, well, see,
So,
I just got my pro license like a while back, but
yeah.
like since Workbench Con, so I should be in the window.
You should be
but
good. Yeah.
I emailed Becky. We'll figure it out. Because they did tell me that they were fixing to release it. So, but no, I'm signed into the portal and everything. But it'll let me do it. It'll let me use my 11.5. But when I try to use the 12, it limits me to the 625 by 625. So,
So I can answer Jeff here real quick. Jeff asked, not use one, but taper ball nose entered in the tool library as a regular ball mill or as a V-bit. So it depends. It's typically in the library as a ball nose because it technically is a ball nose. But what I do when I enter a bit, it lives in the ball nose category for most applications. But when I do an inlay, I actually do enter it as a V-bit. The tip diameter doesn't really matter to me when I'm doing an inlay because that's going to be my glue allowance anyway. So you don't have to worry about that setting. But I do like with my Jenny, skinny Jenny, my 16th inch ball nose, I enter it in as a V-bit. So I would say do it both ways depending on what you're going to do.
yeah. I will say too, if you're doing a V carve, it'll let you choose or it did me with the Genie. It lets me pick it the way mine's laid out.
Yep. And Mark said, "What are your preferences on pigments?" Did I send you that too?
Probably.
So I use eye candy pigments. I don't think I did. Let me
I don't
send
see
that
it in here.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you right now. So I use eye candy pigments. They are a sponsor of my channel as well. But the reason they're a sponsor of my channel is because I think they are absolutely amazing. So I actually reached out to them. You do get a code. Let me throw this in there. There we go. Sent that to you. If you want to go to their sites, you can order resin, you can order molds, pigments. STL Woodworking gets you 10% off of their price. But yeah, that's pretty much all I use exclusively, with the caveat Super Clear is also a sponsor of my channel, and I do occasionally use their liquid pigment, depending on the application. If I don't want any kind of mica powder of any kind, and I'm not looking for completely or completely opaque, I will use Super Clear's liquid pigment if I want just a hint of a color.
So how would
I think
you
that's all the questions.
How would you compare that to diamond? Because I think I picked some of those up at my local woodcraft when I was playing around with some epoxies. So that's about my only experience with them.
Black
Similar,
diamond.
different? Yeah.
So, so I'll tell you exactly how this went down. So when I started messing with the epoxy and the pigments and everything, Super Clear was like hands down the best epoxy for my applications. But when it came to pigments, I really wasn't sold one way or the other. I reached out to both the Black Diamond and Eye Candy. To this day, I have still never got a response from Black Diamond. I immediately got an email back from Jeff at Eye Candy Pigments, who is the actual owner of Eye Candy Pigments. So, history. That being said, the owner of a company responding to you that quickly for anything, quite frankly, was just absolutely amazing to me. And since then, he's just been amazing. I talk to him probably 2 or 3 times a month, and it's just that type of interaction just really, really set well with me. So, chemically, whatever, I don't know those things. I'm not that smart. There may be no difference, but as far as the interaction and customer service, hands down, Eye Candy is just absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and that would speak a lot to me as well. I've had similar interactions with it with certain places, and I know Clack has as well. So
Yeah, that's why I have a Shapeoko.
Yeah,
That's why I bought a Shapeoko instead of a Onefinity.
yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. I told you Kevin used my one of my files as a tutorial. I don't know if y'all ever watched the tutorials from Carbide 3D, but did anybody see the one with the Jeep, the Jeep tray? That was my file. I had sent it in a long time ago to get some help with some tool pathing and stuff, and he popped it up on a video as a tutorial one day, and I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, Kevin, that's my file." He's like, "Yeah, I promise you that it's not going out anywhere for anybody to download because I sell those on Etsy." But he completely fixed. He's so much better than me when it comes to designing stuff. He actually fixed all my little issues that I had with it. I was like, "Hey, man, can you send me the fixed file? That would be awesome." And he actually did. He sent it to me. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that to be honest with you, that's how I come up with the broke the tie when it came to Onefinity and Shapeoko. Was I drafted an email, and in that email, I basically made 2 copies of it. I sent one to Shapeoko or Carbide, and sent one to Onefinity. Onefinity sent me back a quote, and Shapeoko or Carbide sent me back a quote, but actually asked about the channel and was interested in stuff like that. And, I told him, I'd heard a lot about the machines and so forth. And so there was an exchange, and I was like, okay, I like that response better, a little more personal response rather than just a generic reply.
Yep.
So that was what tipped me over. That, and like I said, Steve had the Onefinity, and I felt like variety would be good with us doing a lot together and comparing machines and stuff like that. I just felt like the variety would be good for us. The machine is an excellent machine. I got to play around and look at it over there at Workbench Con, and I was like, if I had room, I'd just get one of each, but I don't have the room and I don't have the money.
Right.
So ET, my guess is probably that you got just a little bit of belt slippage, or maybe you've got a timing issue between the right and the left side. And what's happening is you're losing a couple of steps, either jumping a tooth or losing a couple of steps during the job. And then when you run the next job, but you're correcting it because when you rehome it, it's, getting it back in sync. So I would check belt tension and timing to make sure you're not losing some steps somewhere. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, it could be that. It could also be the fact that these are really inexpensive limit switches on these lasers, and when the machine finishes a job and it goes back to home, it just goes back to home. versus when it does a homing operation, it does the quick find, and then it does the slower, the fine tune fine, basically. So it's probably getting a more accurate touch off when he actually proactively homes it. And that's just another reason that both you and I kind of have that park function, or that return, end of job spot, is you're telling the machine to go to a specific spot rather than to rehome itself at the end of the job. And it's less likely to move, or it's less likely to get out of alignment when it's not rehoming.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, because it does kind of do that crash home after the job if you don't set it up to do something else. But yeah, what I do, ET, me and Steve both kind of, do the same thing, is I have mine set to whenever it completes a job, the laser module goes to the back left corner. You don't want to go all the way to the corner, because it could potentially bump and lose a step that way. You want to come in like back towards you, either 5 or 10 millimeters inside the maximum limits. That way you've got that buffer so that it doesn't hit anything. And if you do that, then if you do a job, like especially if you're doing jigs and you do a jig and then you reset it, you hit start, reset it, hit start, I have really, really good consistency that way. But I think me and you both have a video. I know I have a video about how to set it up, if you don't know, on setting up your return to location. And it's really handy because it gets the laser module out of the way too, so you don't bump it while you're loading new materials into the workspace or anything. So that's, like I said, the park location and the return to home location, to me, that's two of the first things I do when I get a new machine in.
Yeah, I mention it in a lot of my machine videos, but I don't know that I've done a like 5 things I do to every machine type of video, or whatever. That might be a good thing to put out there, of just like, here are some of the common things I'll do when setting up any machine. So, but it's I might even push it out to about an inch, or about 25 mil off the corner. Just anything in that back left corner. Usually it gets out of the way of your camera, gets out of the way of your work, all that. And then also you don't. I've only had one. I should clarify this. I've had one machine where that was a problem, and it was one of those machines with the cable chain that was just too tight, and so it would go back there and it would park, but it's like when it proactively stopped moving the steppers, it would lose strength.
That's really common with the D1s, because they didn't leave enough slack, and that cable can get between the gantry and the back of the frame, and it won't let it go all the way to the corner.
Yeah, well, that's even on just the homing one. If you don't have your cable set up on the D1 Pro, it'll do that too. But yeah, definitely something to do.
Yes. I actually have. I use eye candy pigments. Their glow in the dark resin is pretty cool. Now, think about your application. So, how often do people use stuff that you're making in the dark? Not a lot, but it does work pretty well, and it does glow pretty cool. I've used it in candle holders. I've made a bunch of candle holders out of epoxy that actually is pretty cool when you're using them. So it depends on your application. But yeah, it definitely does work, and it looks pretty cool. It does truly glow in the dark whenever you turn the lights out.
Yeah, I see they have
try that.
They have multiple colors of
they do
stuff too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Thomas said he broke down and got some, I'm guessing he meant Jenny bits, running them a little harder than some of the others. Yeah, like Greg said. Greg said he torture tests them for you. So
I do, and I'll tell you. I don't know if anybody knows who Izzy Swan is. But so Izzy took some of Cody's bits from Workbench Con and actually took them and put them on the Phantom CNC, which is a pretty amazing machine. And he ran those at a full depth of cut. I can't remember if Cody's still in here. Maybe he remembers exactly what Izzy ran them at. But he ran some of the Jenny extended reach 1/4 inch at full depth of cut, and I think it was plywood. at 600 inches per minute, which typically will break most quarter-inch bits. He couldn't break Cody's bits, so they're pretty amazing.
Mm.
So if you're looking for a bit, I'm gonna tell you, go get a Jenny bit, and you can get 10% off. Use my code.
It's in the comments up there somewhere.
Yeah, it's just STL Woodworking. You just use that code. You'll get 10% off any of his bits.
Mark said he homes the laser if he had a return layer. Yeah, apparently he has no issues with accuracy. I'm not. I think we got either I'm not reading properly or something's weird about
Yeah, he
that.
homes the machine even if he has to rerun a layer and doesn't have any issues, and that's good. You have a well set up machine. You don't have any issues with it, but occasionally you can see where you're every time you home it, it might be off just a little bit, and then that's either indicator you got to check the squareness, check your belts, things like that. Or I have seen in some of these machines where it's just the limit switch is triggering at slightly different locations. So
Yeah, and we've actually played around with a couple of machines. I don't remember which ones it was, but we got a lot better consistency when we slowed down the home speed, and especially the slow home speed. The slower that is, the more precise it's going to be. But at some point, it gets to where it's like, okay, that's way too slow. And I know, like the Atom Stack, this machine, in particular the X40, when I first got it, the homing speed was just very, very slow. And I had to play with it to get it to where it was a balance between precise and not just crawling from one side of the workspace to the other. So sometimes you have to play around with the settings.
I'll tell you something terrible that I hate to admit. Do you know on this D1, I actually have the rotary attachment, and then I've never even plugged it in.
A lot of people have that. X-Tool's really good at selling you stuff you don't need sometimes.
Yeah. It's sitting right over there. I've never even plugged it into the machine.
Yeah.
I find that rotaries are something that you either get really into and do a lot of. There's some people that just all they do are tumblers, and others who they don't do it very often. And if you do one-offs, it feels like that setup to get it aligned, get everything plugged in, get it all working right, remember which rotation and all these settings. You either do it a lot or you don't, and then you find it really useful or very frustrating.
Yeah, and it's funny because like with the new Avid, I've got a rotary attachment on the new Avid CNC. I don't have a clue how to use it. It's there. Eventually, I'm sure I will. I've got capability, actually, I think I've got capability up to 10 foot. I think you can do it in any axis with that rotary attachment. I don't know how to operate that thing.
I did one with the Jimitsu. I've got the Jimitsu rotary over there, and I used it, and it's okay. But the rotary that they sent me with it's the workpiece is 12 inches at the most, I think, or 11.
Yeah.
So there's really, I'm like, if I can't do a walking stick or something, I really don't, what do I'm just going to try to make my own ink pens or something. But
yeah, it's funny because Jay bought his just for the fact of doing pull cues.
Yeah,
which is the one I have now. It's sitting there.
Miley's asking, says, my laser says to ground it, the back of the ground terminal goes straight to the ground wire from the 3-prong plug. Is it necessary? If it's going to the main wire, seems like maybe that might be something for some of those places where they don't have 3-prong grounding.
Yeah, I think that's a little more typical outside of the US and others where they might not have that ground built into the power supply. Most of these machines should be grounded through themselves back to the power supply. And so as long as you have a 3-pin plug going into the wall and your outlet and home is properly grounded, you shouldn't need to worry about it. It's never a bad idea, but at that point you really want to ground it not necessarily to the ground in your outlet, but to a separate ground. That's something I've done with, like dust collection on some CNC machines. So I have an actual separate ground for that. But on one of these, on these hobby lasers and such, even on my CO2 that I got from China, I went through the wiring on that and made sure everything was grounded back to that plug. and so I've been fine with that one. So
Yeah. Well, a lot of these machines are made to work in places that don't necessarily have electrical standards like we have. And so, in some places they may not have a ground. So it's probably, like I said, that would be my guess, is that's not necessarily applicable in most homes in the U.S. unless it was wired before 1950, maybe. Whenever they went to the, the ground wire being part of the whole setup. Because I know back, years ago, we didn't have a ground either. We just had the hot and the negative.
That's right.
No neutral.
So yeah, you can ground it to your plumbing, and as you say, as assuming you've got your main water is also metal. They actually my house electrical was grounded to my plumbing, and then the city came through and made us all upgrade our supply lines. And well,
yeah, what happens if you're in the shower and something goes wrong with your electrical?
Well, it's a ground.
I know.
It better not be a hot wire. But yeah, so they kind of ruined my ground because they ran a PEX style. I don't know what they call it at that size, but it's a nylon plastic kind of main line coming into the house now. So I was like, well, gee, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of are there with you. They've got the Rotary and never used it. But Kevin pointed out that VCarve 12 has some new Rotary toolpaths in it, so maybe something to play with.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Can I use the? I wonder if I could use the Jinmitsu Rotary with the Shipoko.
I don't think so. If I'm not mistaken, I do not think you can.
I know I do have a accessory plug on the main power box. So I'm kind of curious what they're planning on attaching to that eventually.
I was curious too. Like today, I had to drill a hole in my case to mount the thing for the PWN CNC spindle. Yeah, I was hoping it would plug in somewhere else, but it does not. It goes directly to the board, and you actually have to drill into your case on it. So, needless to say, my warranty is void on the 5 Pro.
Well, Clack, I mean, this might be a good opportunity for you to test Shapeoko's support. Why don't you plug it in and find out?
I've been dying to control that thing with Lightburn, but I'm afraid that I'll connect it to Lightburn and I'll screw something up in the controller or something. Because I could actually, Lightburn will see it, like it recognizes it, but I'm scared to do it.
That's been weird with me with the Avid is learning. I have to use Mach 4 to control the Avid, and that's been a totally game changer for me. I've never messed with anything like that before, but that's how I'm having to control the Avid.
I was gonna say I learned when I jumped into CNC. I was on Mach 3, and so that was kind of my base knowledge. And I've jumped around on a few different ones, but honestly, since that, you kind of go back to the first thing you learned is that's your baseline. That's what you gear everything off of.
Yeah.
So I haven't done much with Mach 4, but definitely
I don't like it
in Mach 3.
Do not like it at all.
Yeah, North Alabama. I've got a few chucks and rollers and rotaries that I've tried over the years. My favorite is still Adam Stack's R1 chuck. That thing is a beast. It's my go-to. That's what's inside Enclosurizilla over here. And my Enclosurizilla is dark right now. You can't see in there. But it looks just like the one Steve's got. Except it's black. Mine's black.
Yeah. Your black and gold one or whatever.
Brad asked something about the long mill. I've talked to them a couple of times at the folks who actually do the make the long mill. They're pretty nice folks. I know Garrett over at IDC Woodcraft. He runs the long mill, and he really likes it. So I have no personal experience with the long mill though.
Yeah, I hadn't. I looked at them when I was getting ready to buy, but at the time I looked at them, they were still using the rollers and everything, and I just wasn't for me.
Yep.
My two criteria, because from learning what I've learned with the Genmitsus and everything, my two criteria were linear rails and ball screws. That was, I had the Genmitsu that I had lead screws. It wasn't ball screws, but it had lead screws with linear rails, and it was pretty solid. And of course, knowing what I know, the ball screws are, upgraded the linear screws. So I was like, whatever. Well, whatever I get, that's what I wanted to have. And I've been very pleased so far.
Yeah, the ball screws. I came from the Shapeco Pro, which was a belt-driven machine.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it was actually pretty good. I mean, I didn't have any issues with it whatsoever, but I would say, and I think probably Carbide would well, they obviously agree, or they wouldn't have upgraded to the ball screw. The ball screw is definitely the way to go. Ball screw or the rack and pinion, one of the two is the way to go as far as CNC goes.
Yeah. So I got a local buddy of mine that had a, was it XXL or whatever? It was belt driven, but he said he didn't have any problem with it. He had to adjust the belts and change out a couple of rollers and stuff, but he he talked real highly of his. And I asked him, I was like, well, if you had to get a new one, what would you get? And he's like, oh, I'd love to get the Shapeco 5 Pro. So when I ordered it, I called him up and I'm like, hey, Tip, guess what I got? And he's like, dude, I'm coming to see you. I want to see it run. And so he come over here and looked at it. But yeah, it's I figured the price difference, I just might as well bite the bullet and go ahead and get what I wanted instead of getting what I thought I could get by with and then having regrets.
So I had the Pro first, and then I actually sold my Pro when I bought the 5 Pro, and I went ahead and got the 4x4 when I bought mine. I had the 4, or I say the 4. I keep calling it 4. It's actually the Shapeco Pro. I had it's like 33 by 17 and a half, or something like that. So I upgraded to the 4x4 when I did the 5 Pro.
Yeah. Deborah's saying that they think they're ready to buy their first laser. They want to buy one that they can expand to a working area of 24 by 24 inch. Your program on first lasers was great. Keep up the good work. Well, if you're wanting a 24 by 24, I will go ahead and tell you, I didn't realize that it was a 24 by 24, but a buddy of mine came over here Friday and picked up the Sculpt Fun S30 Pro, and it's actually 24 by 24 out the gate. And that's what he's got. And Sculpt Fun also has one of the few cameras that I would use myself personally on a regular basis without having to worry about constantly resetting the darn thing. Because they come up with a really nice camera mount, which I think some other companies are starting to copy now. But yeah, you might want to give that machine a look because it comes with a 20 or a 30 watt module unless you're just wanting to go crazy. But for a 24 by 24, that's kind of an odd size. Like the X40 that I've got is 420, I think, by 850. The new A70 comes 500 by, is it 500 by 400? Ain't that what this is?
The Pro is 400 by 500, and then they have the Max, which is what
850 by
840, 850. But yeah,
I think they advertise.
So you kind of go from normal-ish to almost too big.
Yeah, because they tried getting me to take the 850 by 850, and I'm like, guys, I don't have room for that. I mean, I just
yeah.
And I've only got one enclosure that's capable. Like this is a 4 foot by 3-foot box basically. So I mean, I can put a pretty good sized machine in there, but it wouldn't fit in this one. But yeah, who's that asking the question? Somebody was saying, is that 24 by 24?
It's Jim
Yeah.
Castro is asking, is the work area 24
Yeah.
by 24?
Yes, the Sculpt Fun S30 is, was it 600 by 600 out of the box. The S30 Pro, I think it is, isn't it? Because I just had it. I just run it last night, showing him how to operate it and set it up and everything. Because that's how when I went to set it up, he was asking me. He's like, "Well, how big a workpiece can I do?" And 600. It was 600 by 600. Because I also had to find a honeycomb that was 600 by 600, and send him a link where he could get him a honeycomb.
Now, speaking of Sculpt Fun, they are coming out. They are coming out with a new rotary that may or may not give your atom stack one a run for the money.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're calling it the. It's a very similar sounding RA Pro Max.
Well, if it's got the word "pro" in it, it's gonna be good, right?
Professional.
But yeah, it's a Chuck style rotary. So
Well, Longer actually sent me one that at first appearances I was like, wow, but I don't like it as good as I do the R1. It's bigger. It has, I mean, like if I was going to do the Stanley Cups, that's the one you'd want to use because it's freaking massive. But it's bigger than my fiber chuck. But it just, I just don't like it. I don't know why. Thomas, yes, the last job that I did on this rollie right here, Klein was having some problems with his setup at home, and he got freaked out because he had an order of 35 or 36 tumblers that he had to get done. And so he came over here, and we sat here on the MK2 and knocked out 35 tumblers one afternoon. That was the last time. That was the last time I did a tumbler on it, but we did 35 of them in that one day. I think I did a little short on there.
Somebody else.
John's asking if he's really going to be missing out on a Shapeoko. If they get a Shapeoko 5 Pro instead of the 150 Elite, they brag about their inch per minute speed like it's the only criteria. It's my first CNC, so I really don't know how important. I'm going to say if it's your first CNC and you're not jumping in this, going to be doing production level, cutting out cabinetry stuff, no, you're probably not going to be approaching those. You're going to be very happy with your speed you're getting out of the Shapeoko 5, and you're probably not going to be pushing them right away either.
I have it.
Yeah. No.
When you get into those situations, you're usually in a production environment. You're trying to get things moving fast. When you're in more of a hobbyist or a more of a even if you're in business but doing more like kind of one-off customized things, you're definitely not pushing the inch per minute criteria.
No,
Well, if you're like me and you're scared you're going to break a $40 bit, you're not going to try to push those speeds anyway.
Well, but then you get into the other side of it where you're running it too slow and you start burning.
No, I've learned to listen to the pitch of the bit as it's going through the material.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a really high pitch like whine, it's going too slow. If it starts like a growl, it's going too fast. And it took me a little while to kind of tune my ears to figure that out. But what I do is I start out with whoever the manufacturer is recommended speeds, and I listen to it, and I just hit that up 10%, up 10%, up 10% until I get it to where it sounds like it's doing a really good job. Now, sometimes I will go to as fast as I can and then back down just a little, because I have learned that when you start really pushing the envelope, sometimes you get a little fuzz and stuff in your cut. As opposed to if you slow it down just a little bit, it lets it clip those little pieces off. Yeah, so I've learned how to tune it by ear, and then I'll write down, like when it says it's at 170% of the speed, I'll go back into my tool library and adjust it from there.
Yeah, you'll be fine, John. Again, I've been running the 5 Pro for some time now, and it'll do you just fine. Don't worry about that.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. The fastest bit speed that I guess I've got is this Skinny Genie. And, well, let me see. Yeah, the fastest one right now. Now I keep bumping them up a little bit, but the fastest bit speed I'm running is 175 inches per minute, and that's on the Skinny Jenny.
I run actually my 1/4 inch bits, the Jenny bits. They're all the Jenny bits. I run them at about 300 inches per minute. Almost all of them. Now, keep in mind, I've had to do some tweaking to get the Shapeco to run almost that fast. It doesn't run quite that fast, but I run them almost at 300 inches per minute in most material, except for some really dense hardwoods. And then I drop them down to somewhere about 120 to 160 inches per minute.
Yeah, let me see.
What's your typical depth for cut on that?
Well, it depends on what it is. If I'm doing, say, MDF or plywood, I'll do full depth of cut, up to 3/4 of an inch. And my hardwoods, I'll do about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch depth of cut, depending on which hardwood it is. Maple, I can usually run 1/4 of an inch. Maple or a walnut, usually 1/8, maybe 1/4 of an inch.
Yeah, if it's like Cody said on the Jennies that 1/8 of an inch is kind of the go-to depth of cut for, the compression bits, especially because you don't really get the effect of the compression part of it unless you go 1/8 inch deep.
Yeah, you've got to go with his bits. You need to go at least 1/8 inch deep to get the actual effect of the compression bit.
Yeah,
like
now
I said,
the ball nose and stuff like that, I don't think that applies to them.
Yeah, but again, please do not go change your settings to Greg's settings because Greg goes.
Hey, I'm
crazy.
not going to because I cringe sometimes. Because the thing about it is a lot of what I'm doing is red oak that I have dried in my kiln, and that stuff is hard. Like this magnolia, you wouldn't think of magnolia as being a hardwood, but when this stuff dries properly, man, it is hard. So I've been going a little faster with plywood, but most of the times when I'm doing plywood, I'm trying to make something that's going to be seen. And so I'm real careful not to cause splinters. And I haven't really played with any MDF yet. So
now keep in mind, MDF will absolutely dull the crap out of your bits. If you're going to be cutting a lot of MDF, you absolutely, even if it's the Jenny bits, when you get done, you need to get some like the clean green or whatever, the cleaning solution. Yeah. Soak them in that overnight after you've used that, because all that mess that they use to glue those fibers together, it will absolutely it will mess up your bits pretty good.
Estree's asking, what's your bit RPM at that feed rate?
So typically, if I'm using the 1/4 inch, I'm right about 19.5.
Good God.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can pull.
Maybe I need to speed mine up a little bit. I've been slowly bumping them up, but God.
Yeah, you can. Let me see if I can pull.
Because like I'm running 19,000 on the Jenny. Yeah, all the compression bits I'm running about 19,000. Everything else is around 15,000. 14 for the ball nose. For the Skinny Jenny.
18.5 and 19.5. So if you want to see, let me see if I can share this real quick. This is like, this is just my setup for, this is one of the things that I did. Actually, this is a preview because this is going to be coming out on CNC with me as a project that I did for the holders for the Hamilton Dilbeck 3-bit set. But if you can see, I mean, I run 19.5. This one is a 1.25 or 0.125 depth of cut, 200 inches per minute, 60 plunge. So I run them pretty quick.
I bet your CNC hates you.
Now keep in mind, I do when I do the plunge, I always do a ramp plunge. Always do a ramp plunge.
I've got to where I do it on every tool path I do. I wish it would let you default it to where it always defaults to a ramp, but I haven't figured out how to do that. If there's a way, let me know.
I don't know of a way. I just automatically go in and do it. I typically do an 1.5 inch ramp plunge. every time.
Yeah. No, Jeff, I'm gonna be honest with you, Jeff. I cringe sometimes because I start pushing the envelope with my bits, and I'm like, man, that thing's gonna get in a bind, it's gonna snap, or I'm gonna hit a knot. Because a lot of the wood that I do too is crotch wood. Like if you noticed in the one that I did today, like with this right here, this was actually like a knot of a black walnut, and so hardwood is hard. Like when you get into hardwoods, the heart is the hardest part, but like where a crotch comes together and then there's like just different grain going all different directions, that stuff is really, really hard. Like your bit will be going through there tooling along. It'll hit some of that crotch figure. And when it hits that crotch figure, you can hear like it changes. Like it'll put a bind on it. And so I'm being conservative because I don't want to break my CNC and I don't want to break my bits.
You're not going to break your CNC. Go ahead and push it. If you break a bit, look, I'm just going to go on record right now. I don't know if Cody's still in here, but Cody will replace your bit. You can tell him Greg said so. If you break it.
Yeah. Well, it's a mess.
I'm bringing this down.
He's still in here, so.
I'm bringing this down, and you're going to have to mill it out into something at some high speeds there, Clack.
What is that?
Heck yeah.
What kind of wood's that?
It's part of a burl, actually. So you got all your grain is going every direction in this one.
Oh, hang on. Let me go get this piece. That's pecan that I did today, which was kind of tough. But hang on, I've got a piece I want to show you.
We can resaw that several times and make some cool stuff out of that.
Yeah, no, a friend brought a couple burls down to me off of his family land up northern Minnesota, and I've been kind of cutting chunks out of it that I can use for stuff. So this is one of the smaller pieces, but not all of it is very dry yet.
Oh, I can't find it. I just stuck it somewhere.
He's on a mission. He's going to have to find it now.
Yes, I got several pieces of some good burl that I did for. I actually resawed them and made them into charcuterie boards.
I may have already used it for something. I had a piece the other day it was a crotch figure that was like it was tough, but this was one of my attempts at doing those inlays today, and this is pecan. And this stuff is hard. Well, we cut this out of my brother-in-law's yard. They had one that was dropping limbs, and we wound up cutting it. And I've got plenty of this stuff up there. But this stuff's really hard, but it splinters real bad. And I didn't think about that when I was trying to do that inlay with it. And that's part of the reason my little tips were breaking, was because I got on that one, it had flat grain, and the grain was going up. And so the tips were just barely hanging on.
Have you messed with Wingay?
That don't grow around here.
Okay. I just wondered if it was similar to Wingay. Wingay's it splinters pretty bad.
Yeah. Now pecan is really, really hard, but it's kind of like pecan and hickory are like first cousins. If you've ever played with any hickory. So
okay.
It's like literally on the sawmill. Sometimes I think pecan is harder to cut than hickory. Because it's a little sappier, and so it makes the blade stick a little bit as it going through the material more so than hickory. Hickory's kind of a dry cut, where pecan, because they usually grow where there's a lot of water. Pecan wood, especially if it's fresh, it seems to be a little stickier to the blade.
What do you got any idea what kind of moisture you're working with?
As soon as they hit the ground.
Oh, no.
No, on the sawmill, you literally the sooner you cut them, the easier it is to cut with hardwood.
Yeah, I don't mess with anything under 10%.
Well, it's hard to find a tree in the wild that's under 10%.
Yep. Yeah, I do all kiln dry. I don't do anything less than 10%.
Now I kiln dry it after I mill it, but when I'm milling it, it's literally we just cut the tree down when it goes in the sawmill.
Yeah,
So,
I think if you go to parts of Arizona, certain years, you'll find some live trees that have
there may be some
their
standing trees
moisture content is pretty low.
But no, I dry it down to where, well, usually I'll pull it no matter what, it's going down to at least 8%. But my FLIR moisture gauge will register 7, but most of the time when I take it out of the kiln, my FLIR won't register it. So it's
You
less
have a
than
kiln
7.
there?
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I built one
Did you?
right after I got the sawmill.
We'll talk later. Probably talk to you about Orion. Orion's got an amazing pinless moisture meter that you might like to see.
I've got 4 or 5 different kinds. The FLIR seems to be the one I like the best so far. I've tried a bunch of different ones. I need to get me one of the like sure enough ones where you like screw it into the wood and attach the probe and all that. But
Yeah,
I do a lot based on the humidity inside the kiln. So like I'll put it in there, like with black walnut or whatever. If I cut up a whole log and stick it in there, I monitor the water that's discharged from the kiln. And it's like, especially with hardwoods, the first couple of days, I'll get like 10 gallons of water out a day. And then as it dries, of course, it slows down. But the relative humidity inside there will be at like 80 or 90% that first week or so. And I'll keep it in there until the humidity inside the kiln gets down below like 40% relative humidity. And then I'll crank the temperature up to like 165, let it run for 2 or 3 days just to heat the wood up and like kill bugs and fungus and all that, especially if it's spalted wood, like if it's been sitting for a year or two. You want to kill that fungus because the black that's in there is caused by a fungus that grows inside and bacteria and stuff that grows inside the wood. If you don't kill it, it'll actually keep going. And also, if it's pine, you'll build something with it, and then the pine beetles will emerge inside your wood project if you don't heat it up to kill the larva that's inside the wood. I actually had that happen before I got my kiln. I built a table and come in there one day and it looked like somebody drilled a hole in the top of it. And I'm like, what in the world? And then I found a big pine beetle in the window.
How thick are you doing? How thick are you putting in there?
It depends. I did here recently. I did a whole 24-inch log for a guy that was black walnut. He cut it in 3-inch slabs.
3-inch. Okay.
No, it took 2 months to dry that.
I'll text you later. You probably be interested in Orion's meter that I've been using.
Cool.
Clack, those pine beetles are just rustic design features.
Hey, you wouldn't believe the size of the hole they make when they come out. And it takes them a couple of months to come out. I'm talking about like you can stain it. I don't care what you do to it; they'll come out of there.
Yeah,
you can polyurethane it, stain it, whatever, and they will emerge through the wood.
That's a thing to be careful of if you're buying, Facebook Marketplace, been drying in the barn for 60 years wood. It can still have live things in it if it hasn't been kiln dried. So, for some projects that's fine, but for building furniture for other people, probably not.
Yeah, but see, this is that magnolia that come off of my mill. That's how I'm able to have 2-inch thick pieces of wood that's 14 inches wide. If you go price a piece of magnolia that's 13 inches wide, it's not cheap.
That's awesome.
And most of the trees that I've got are rescues. I don't buy them. People call me and say, hey, because I used to do tree work before I got into law enforcement. I did tree work for like 7 years, and that was what I did. So I took down trees and like cut them up and all that.
They
And
said, come get them.
I still got a bunch of buddies that do that for side business, and they'll call me and be like, "Hey, I got an elderly person that is wanting this tree cut down, but if I have to clean it up, it's going to cost them an extra $1,000. Do you want to come get this log? If you'll come get the log, I won't have to charge them, to clean the log up. And I've got a trailer that I've got outfitted to where I can literally it throws the log up on the trailer and I drive off with it.
Hey, Cody, throw you a good question.
What's that?
About light burn. Yeah, hey, there you go.
Yeah, Cody's 4 updates behind on Lightburn.
Wow.
Is it worth downloading the latest update? I figured if it ain't broke, it doesn't need fixing. While that can be true, I'm trying to think some of the updates in the last 4 versions, but I don't feel that Lightburn breaks too much when they make their updates. Now they've had some glitches, but they tend to get those taken care of. Yeah, I've found some of the new things in Lightburn to be worth the updates, especially if you've already paid up and they're free.
If he's 4 behind, yeah, he's like there's a few cool tools that they've added that you may not have. So
yeah, so what tools are those? I'm trying to think of them off the top of my head, and I'm
well,
under pressure now.
If you go back, I think now I don't know if you go back 4 updates. I think he don't even have the like if you're cleaning up a trace or something, the find smaller images. Because I love that tool. Whenever they added that was gangbusters. To where like let's say if you import something and trace it and you get all these little tiny little specks all in your workspace, you can actually click it and then click find delete all smaller shapes or whatever, and it'll delete every single one of them without you having to go through there and control click.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how far back he is. I mean, one of them was the slot resize tool. They've been developing that, and so if you're developing items that, like box joints or slot and tab construction, that's kind of a huge one that's come in. I think 1.3 that came in. They added like the guide tools. So if you're doing a lot of design in Lightburn, 1.5 added. You can drag down the guides for alignment and such. If you're doing tumblers, was it 1.4 or 1.5 brought in some more of the skewing?
Yeah, 1.4 did the oval correction or whatever.
Yeah, so there's a number of I don't know that they're like program redefining features, but there are a lot of the kind of the nice add-on type things that you might want to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I would have to say that the rotary functions got the biggest upgrade with some of the things that they've added for that. But like I said, the design tools, that was a big deal for me because I get a lot of things to work when I'm tracing them, especially like badges and stuff where it has shading in the background. If you trace it, there's all these little relics that just get like scattered all over the place. And I used to have to manually go in there and click each one of them and delete them. But now you can right click on the like wherever your cutoff is, you can right click it and tell it to delete any shape smaller than that one, and it'll clean that thing up with just 2 clicks of the mouse. And that is a time saver. I love that one. Because Klein is bad to send me designs that he needs fixing, and they have a lot of that stuff in them.
I think North Alabama asked this a couple times, but looking for the outside dimensions of an extended X-Tool D1. I haven't done that to any of mine, but looking online, a few people are saying it's just a little less than 45 by 24 and then about 7 inches high. So, that one person built an enclosure that was 24 by 48 by 13 and said it fit. So I don't know if that
it will
helps.
Definitely fit in a 48-inch enclosure because it's smaller than the Acer. So, and my enclosure is 48 inches inside dimensions. But yeah, I don't have an extended one either. I can't give you I know that the standard was like 24 by 24 is what it required to fit. Now, you didn't have any extra room, but it would fit.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I like to have at least 3 or 4 inches extra for cabling to move about, especially with the X tool, because that cable management on that thing, it'll if you don't, it's going to wind up binding and causing some problems.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a little wiggle room there for official or unofficial add-ons.
Yes. Cody said he makes his files in Corel Draw and send it. He'd love to do all the design work in Lightburn. There you go, man. Just go on and update and get to designing. I'm starting to dig the tools in VCarve. I'm going to be honest with you. There's still some things that I can't do in VCarve, probably because I hadn't figured it out yet, that I can do quicker in Lightburn. But I'm really loving those scissors in VCarve. And the fact that when you're node editing, it automatically puts lines together for you.
I love that.
That's a big deal because in Lightburn you have to like Alt J and all that crap. Well, with VCarve, you just drag it and drop it, and just boom, it fixes it. So I'm starting to really dig VCarve for designing too.
Yeah, but I feel them. It's hard to when you get proficient in a design tool, it's sometimes hard to move over when you have that muscle memory of those shortcuts and where the tools are and how they work. But
yes, well, that's the way it was with me and VCarve at first.
so Mike Doyle he says 23.25 by 43.75 for the extended. Those would be sounds like your exact measurements.
Yep, I would add a little extra for cabling and incidentals.
Yeah, especially if you're getting something like that Atom Stack X70 with all that extra wiring.
Yeah,
Two power plugs coming out of the brick of a power supply and everything else.
hey, it's the only machine in this shop that has 12, 24, and 36 volt circuits on it.
Yeah, yep, it is.
But it's a beast. All right, guys, it's actually been 2 hours and 16 minutes. So
yeah,
we're actually running over a little bit.
Well, I missed out on a good 20 minutes of it, so yeah, you're just making up for me.
Yeah, you did. But what have you got coming up this week? Anything big? I mean, I got to get my 70-watt video out, but I've been my ADHD's been messing with me, and I've been jumping from project to project, so I haven't had a chance to really follow up on the 70-watt yet.
I'm kind of surprised you haven't dropped it yet. I was expecting that sooner, but no, I mean, I got a lot going on this week because I gotta get packed for coming down to see you, my model airplane event and everything, and I'm hitting the road Thursday, so. But that is my, so I did get the X Tool 70-watt in the day after you did, and been playing around with it. I've been posting a few updates on Facebook and such, and including, this is 1/2-inch plywood cut out on that and engraved with the 70-watt, real nice dark engrave on that. So I've been having fun with that. I'm going to get some sort of video out on it before I leave, even if it's just kind of some of my initial, I've been testing the cutting and the engraving on different materials and such. So I'll at least get something out on that, but I don't know how much extra time I'll have to do anything else. But so we'll have to hit the projects, do some videos when I get down there. Because for me, it's basically about getting things wrapped up at work, get things loaded up and hit the road to come down to your area.
Yeah. I'll be getting your home away from home set up this week. Also, before we go to Maymay's, I've got to redo my portable setup because, like I said, I've gave my D1 Pro away. So I'm going to be trying to get that in here in the next week or two. I'm going to probably go ahead and move the trailer over here in front of the shop. That way I can roll it out and just redo it. I'm going to start running the Atom Stack A24 over there. I'm going to put it on my portable setup, and then of course I'm going to pack this little guy up and take it with me as well. So I think that'll be a good combo. I'll have a good square machine that's fully enclosed, highly visible, has all the things I need, which is going to actually help me out because I'm going to reclaim a camera that is in the portable shack and bring it back in the shop. But I'm going to have to retool a few things on the table, make sure I got all my wiring run and all that. But that's the things that I've got pressing. Of course, I've got projects I've got to get out. Had some folks bring some drumsticks and some other stuff. I've been doing lots of sports engraves here lately. But yeah, it's hopefully it's going to be a busy week. And then the 19th, Steve will arrive at the shack. Well, actually, he's already here. Oh, hang on. Steve's actually already here, but Steve's I got to make a handle for mine.
See, mine is not so life size.
Hey, you're lucky. I started to take and try to figure out a way to control my Steve's head with the CNC, so I can remotely move him over there in the background.
It's just gonna move around, yeah.
But yeah, I'll be working on getting everything ready for that, and like I said, it's gonna be busy. So if you're in the area, 19th and 20th, the 20th for sure, me and Steve will be at Maymay's. The 19th, we're probably going to go out somewhere and get some supper, maybe some chicken livers that night, and maybe do a live, Steve eats chicken livers video
There
or
you
something
go.
like that.
It's going to be a short video.
But yeah, but I do have some other stuff coming up. Like I said, I've been playing with inlays. I do plan to do a video eventually once I get comfortable with it. I'm not going to be. Hey, I'm learning it, man. I love. See, that's what people don't understand. I love doing it the hard way. I love to be able to do it, screw up, figure out what I need to do different. And like I said, I have been watching a lot of people's videos for, tips and tricks and so forth. But yeah, I want to get a little more proficient at it. And but I do have to get the new X7 or A70. Why do you keep changing letters? The A70. I've got to get the full video put out. I haven't done that yet. I wanted to run it for a little while just to make sure there wasn't any bugs in it. Steve had me a little worried to begin with. I thought Steve was going to have a trouble with his machine. I don't get to say this often, guys, but luckily I told him how to put it together and he got it working. So we'll just leave it. We'll just leave
accurate.
it. We'll just leave it at that.
That's an embellishment.
Did you have it put together right?
Yes.
Was it working correctly because of your assembly?
I would like to say that maybe it's just a little more pickier on how the Z-axis is set up than it needs to be.
The good news, guys, is Steve found a thing that we do need to make sure we point out to y'all in the assembly video because it can cause you some frustration. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's fair. Yes, I was having a little bit of an issue with the autofocus, and a few millimeters out of spec, which they don't really specify in the manual, was the issue. So I'll try to cover that in mind and such for sure. And I'm sure Clack, now that he so graciously helped me solve my issues, will mention it in his as well.
Hey, it ain't every day I get to help you.
No, this is.
But he had by the time I found out about it, he had done got a little frustrated, and he was not thinking clearly.
I was in full frustration mode because it was mimicking some of the issues I've had with other lasers with autofocus, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" So,
oh man, yeah, but yeah, it's but I got lucky just because the way that I put mine together, I didn't have the problem, but we had to basically reverse engineer and just figure out what was different between my assembly and his assembly, and we finally figured it out. And once he adjusted it, it worked like a charm. So, but I'm glad we found that, seriously, because if we hadn't have, we would have never been able to troubleshoot that for somebody without one of us having hands on the machine, because you would not have thought that would have caused a problem, but it obviously did. But we'll cover it in our videos. I may actually let Steve explain it, so I'll just drop a link to his video in mine, since he's the one that got to experience it firsthand. But yeah,
and I'll have to thank Colonel Sanders for helping me out.
There you go.
Yeah. No, Brian, actually, in Steve's defense, nowhere in the instructions did it warn of this impending problem. It honestly didn't, and that was what got Steve was
he followed. They couldn't put it in there.
Yeah, he followed the book, but nowhere in there did it have like exclamation. Be sure that you do this. It's not in there anywhere. And the only difference between our assembly was he put his together on top of a honeycomb. I put mine together on just a flat table, and that made all the difference in the world.
Well, not so much on top of the honeycomb, but the honeycomb is on top of the surface. The laser, so yours is flush with where your laser is sitting. My honeycomb happens to be sitting elevated on the same surface as the laser, so that affects the travel and how far it's expecting the Z-axis to go before it autofocuses. So, yeah,
it caused a big problem. The machine was too smart for its own good. But anyway, But we'll go over that in the videos. So how about you, Greg? What you got? What you got going on? Anything special? You going to be anywhere? Any autograph signings or anything going on?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, no, just come on over, check out everything. He's put everything in the chat for as far as I go. I will be at me and Matt 731 Woodworks. Will be in Nashville April 27th for Tools and Tailgate. It's going to be a pretty cool thing Matt's put together. So if you're in the Nashville, Franklin area, Tennessee, come on up and join us for that. Otherwise, yeah, no, I'm here.
Cool. And go check out his videos if you have a CNC or if you're thinking about getting a CNC. He will definitely inspire you with some of the projects. Like I said, Steve and Greg both have way more experience than I do with CNCs. I'm just getting to where I'm feeling comfortable enough to start cranking the speeds up and that type of thing, because that's a lot of money, and I don't want to go breaking it. So
We'll learn you some stuff.
Hearing you say that you can't that you're running those insane speeds and you haven't destroyed yours makes me feel better about what I'm doing. I will say that, because if you haven't broke it at 200 and something millimeters or inches per minute, I'm not going to hurt it.
You're not going to break it. You're not going to break it any bit. If you do, trust me, Cody will replace it.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you to that now.
Cody, where'd you go?
but that's about it, guys. So like I said, go if you haven't checked this channel out, go check it out. Hit the subscribe button, and of course, if you hadn't subscribed to me or Steve, please do that as well. I've got my new goal. June the 22nd is my birthday, and I'm hoping, and I think I can. I'm hoping to hit 30,000 by then. That's gonna be that is my short-term goal for now.
Yeah.
So if you haven't, just please go hit that button. And I can't promise you'll like all the content, but surely you can find something you like, whether it's lasers, CNC, or chickens.
There you go.
And Steve, the real Steve, will be in the Clack Shack next weekend for the Sunday Night Live show. I may get him a laptop and let him be live from outside in the camper and me being here, but he will be here next Sunday. So y'all, if you're in Alabama and you're coming to our area, be sure to send me a message, email, something, and let us know, because I know I speak for myself, and I'm pretty sure Steve agrees. We're gonna eat at night, whether my wife cooks or we go somewhere and get something. So if you want to meet somewhere within reasonable distance, we'd be more than glad to kind of meet up with you. But the best place to catch us is going to be at May Made It's on April the 20th. We'll be there most of the day. I think it's like 10 to 2, so go check the times at May's website. But me and Steve will be there with her, saying hey to all the Made It's, as they call themselves. So
never know who might show up.
Come on over. Come on
bringing
over.
my own laptop there, Clack, so you don't have to worry about that. I'll be bringing my own laser too, because I plan on using some during the week. But
yeah, hey, I was going to tell you could use we could do our A70 video together, and we could just count it for both of us. Be like, here's our review. All right, well, y'all guys have a good night, and Greg, Steve, anything else before I pull the plug?
Take care, everybody.
Y'all have a good one.